Girlfriends and significant others rejoice. Football season's finally over. What does that mean for you? It means we're going to talk about the NFL draft and mock drafts. Yeah. Recruiting. Yeah. And more. And on this episode of the Chris Rennie Show, I'm going to be reviewing the Super Bowl and what's going on in the NBA, the National Basketball Association. So stay tuned, listen up, and let's get into it. Thank you all for coming. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that. Make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. It is that time of year, and the Chris Rennie Show is actually very sad right now. The NFL season concluded, which means that's it for football in the 2019-2020 season. There's a lot of stories, both college and the NFL, but when you look back on it, it was a good ride. No matter what you want to say, no matter who you rooted for, no matter how your team did, it was a great college football season. It was a great NFL season. And if you really evaluated at the end of the day, I think the two true champions of each level won. Both had great quarterbacks emerge last year, and both had great quarterbacks take that next step to all-time legendary status, GOAT status, whatever you want to hear, this year. The parallels between Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes aren't as similar as you'd think. Joe Burrow was sort of underwhelming his first year at LSU and then took a giant leap. Patrick Mahomes was the other way around, but both ended up achieving the pivotal career accolades that makes you an all-time legend. That gets me into this conversation. Patrick Mahomes is the next great athlete in American sports. There's absolutely no question in my mind about it. You look at baseball, you look at basketball, you look at the NFL. There's only one athlete right now that has the talent, has the personality, and has the accolades early in his career to take that throne from the Tom Brady's, the LeBron Jameses, the Mike Trouts, the Bryce Harpers. You know, when you look at those superstars in those sports, for whatever reason, they aren't meeting the billing as much as they used to be. Now LeBron has a chance to win an NBA title this year, and he can get right back up to being the LeBron James, Mr. King James himself. He's playing phenomenal. He's playing in a lot of games. We'll see how that goes for him. You know, Tom Brady's on the back end of his career. It was the most notable this season. You know, you look at Mike Trout. He hasn't won anything. It's really hard to maintain that superstar level when it comes to the rest of the American sports media opinion when you haven't won a championship. You know, you got other young guys in other sports, John Morant, Zion Williamson. It's going to take a while before they win anything. You got Giannis emerging. He's older than people think. But the way Patrick Mahomes won this Super Bowl, Mahomes' talent may be the greatest to ever grace his position. You know, when you look back at the NFL history of the game and look at all those NFL players who played the quarterback position, what quarterbacks had limitations. Tom Brady didn't have the strongest arm. He'll always have the Bill Belichick system attached to him, regardless. I still think he's the greatest of all time. Aaron Rodgers hasn't won enough big games. One of the most talented people, one of the most gifted players to ever play the position of quarterback in the NFL. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. John Elway took quite a while to break through. Now, Mahomes has John Elway level talent, unquestioned. And he already has that first Super Bowl. So what does that mean? You have the combination of superior talent. You have an extremely successful infrastructure already in place. And you have the ring and the MVP award to speak for itself. He's already on the way to GOAT status. That is what this game meant to Patrick Mahomes. And now he struggled for the first 3 quarters. I don't think anyone will ever deny that. When you pull up the stats of the Super Bowl, when you look into what happened in the game, it was not very exciting for the Chiefs early on. And Jimmy Garoppolo outplayed Patrick Mahomes for a full 3 quarters. All right? But then that third and fourth quarter happened. That fourth quarter where the Chiefs went 21 points unanswered, led by Mr. Patrick Mahomes. And yes, one of those touchdowns was the late long run by Damian Williams that padded his stats. But Patrick Mahomes had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes on this run to the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. You take a look at the games. He was down, 21 to the Texans, down double digits to the Titans. I think it got up to 14. You look at the 10-point lead the 49ers had, the best defense in the NFL allegedly had. Then you see the stats and you're like, man, Patrick Mahomes really lit it up in that fourth quarter. He's the only player to ever lead 3 double-digit comebacks in the same postseason and win the Super Bowl. Other players in that game, Tom Brady's won 6 of them. Patrick Mahomes in his 3rd year in the NFL, second as a full-time starter, has 3. So yes, you could have those people who hope that Patrick Mahomes' arm strength and all that stuff. And when Andy Reid retires, Andy Reid's 61 years old. He's ready to keep going. You don't have Patrick Mahomes and retire. There's going to be a time when the roster and stuff, crumbles a little bit, and it's going to be up to their general manager to rebuild it. But he's the next great athlete in American sports. And, I think this year was finally the year you can truly say it. The old was ushered out. You thought Jared Goff would do it last year. You thought so many times before that Tom Brady and the Patriots were done, that Peyton Manning was washed up. He had a neck surgery. For years, these older guys, the Drew Breeses, the Tom Bradys, the Peyton Mannings, they were not going to keep doing what they were doing at that high level. You turn 36 years old, the rest of your career is downhill. That wasn't the case. But now, you have young guys all over, and I'm going to tell you why the NFL is an absolutely great place after this Super Bowl. They have a guy they're chasing, Patrick Mahomes. Absolutely. Number one, you need that one guy. It was Tom Brady for 20 years. You still have that in the league. It's Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to miss a beat with the top quarterback in the NFL conversation. But Patrick Mahomes is not alone in that loaded NFL young quarterback talent. Now, there's a lot of people who are good, not great yet, but have that potential. And that's who's on the list. And there's guys who flashed early and didn't play great this year. But there are so many good young quarterbacks, all right? So the NFL is loaded with young, talented quarterbacks. Here's a list of names who people can see becoming NFL starters for a long time and being good at it. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes. On my list, second was Deshaun Watson. Third's Jimmy Garoppolo. Fourth, Lamar Jackson. Fifth is Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz tied. And I got Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Daniel Jones, and Sam Darnold. All guys who have flashed greatness. Josh Allen did not make the list, but he is on that list as well. Have flashed talent. Have won games. When the right system is around any of these guys, I believe their teams will be able to win football games. And then to go along with these young guys, there is still a generation of older quarterbacks that are playing great. And there's some older guys who are starting to play well. Drew Brees had another phenomenal year, but he gets another year older. So we'll see if he can continue that level. He has a lot of weapons, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. And he made so many average receivers look great in his career that he's going to continue to do that. Sean Payton's a genius in the system. And then you get to my favorite quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had his best year as an NFL quarterback. He is getting up there a little bit in age, and he made some big throws in the postseason and in prime time this year. So he's starting to take steps to an even higher level and getting put on a higher pedestal. Ryan Tannehill went 9-4 as a starter. Played extremely efficient football, relied on a heavy run game, but can still win games. Matt Ryan, the Falcons were an absolute disappointment, but Matt Ryan was not. 25 touchdowns, so 5 interceptions. Great year. Aaron Rodgers, electric. Always will be till he retires. And then Russell Wilson, who I think the best quarterback in the league currently is, besides Patrick Mahomes. He's a guy who has carried a franchise, and if you get substantial support, DK Metcalf continues to develop. Tyler Lockett can stay healthy. That's all you need. They're going to win football games. Then you continue to develop some of these younger, talented players on the defensive side of the football. Pete Carroll's got a franchise that's going to support him, and they're going to continue to put talent on the field in Seattle and develop talent. So yes, the list of young quarterbacks is loaded. Talented quarterbacks. The older guys are still playing great. I did not include Brady on that list because I didn't think he played very great. But you can never count the guy out. He's on an insanely strict diet. He's extremely in shape. Doesn't look like it, but he is. And he's healthy. So you never can count the man out. Right now, there's a lot of parity in the league. And yes, the Chiefs are above everybody else and on a different pedestal because of what they can do on the offensive side of the football. But when you look through the list of teams in the NFL that can reasonably, legitimately win, there are 15 teams I believe that can do it and win a Super Bowl if everything goes right for them. Obviously, Chiefs number 1, 49ers 2, the Vikings 3, the Packers 4, Ravens, Browns, Cowboys, Texans, Rams, Patriots, Saints, Eagles, Steelers, Seahawks, and the Titans. Now, some of those teams obviously have better chances than the others. Some teams in the NFL are a quarterback away. Some teams are going to surprise us next year, but right now, going into the offseason, when you look at rosters, top to bottom, those 15 teams have what it takes if they get good play out of their quarterbacks, consistent defensive effort, and establish the run game. So those 15 teams can do it. Absolutely. And the league is built by stars. When you look at the NFL right now, there are stars everywhere. When you look at people, there's Patrick Mahomes, a new star. You know, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, the old quarterbacks. You've got people on the defensive side like Khalil Mack who absolutely changed games. You just look at the list. The J.J. Watt's one of them. Ezekiel Elliott's a superstar. Bobby Wagner, Saquon Barkley. It's not just the quarterback position at all. Odell Beckham Jr. Stephon Gilmore is becoming the star in his own right. You know, Christian McCaffrey gets eyes to a television. Myles Garrett, swinging helmets, superstar. The list just goes on, and there's just players you name that attract people to their team and to their TV screens that give them a belief that their team can do it. So, with the league being built by stars, with top upper half consistent quarterback play, and the parity, the amount of teams that can possibly win a Super Bowl, the NFL's in a better place than it has ever been. Yes, everyone's chasing the Chiefs, but that's what it's all about. Having a lot of teams that can chase them and possibly beat them. That's the way it goes. Now there's new coaches, there's new general managers, there's new infrastructures being put in place. So some of these teams that I put in the 15 may or may not get better or worse. But right now, the league's in a great place. And the Super Bowl was exciting because it ushered in a new era. And now the old guys can fight back. And they can possibly get back to the top of the league one last time. But right now, it seems like it's a place for that new generation, that flashy quarterback, the athletic quarterback who can also sling the ball a quarter mile, the Deshaun Watsons, the Patrick Mahomeses of the world, the Russell Wilsons, that's who it's all about right now. And obviously, in my lifetime, a certain guy in Massachusetts have protected this from actually happening. But the dream is to do what the Chiefs did. They've built a team through the offensive line, the defensive line, and have found their quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is built for long-term success, but remember when everyone said the NFL was dying? I think the NFL is in a renaissance, and I think the NFL has been reborn with this Super Bowl. Hell, the old might make a comeback. But I know the new's going to be there for a little bit, and we're going to have a lot of fun in the up-and-coming years. And, it's just going to be a lot of fun. So that takes me into my Super Bowl takeaways. Because the game did get played, and we do have to talk about it, because this is the Chris Rennie Show, and no rock goes unturned. So the game itself was very boring, and I lied. I honestly wasn't bored because of the game. That's a lie, to be honest. But I was more intrigued by the 7 to 8 silver bullet pints I drank during the game. So, yes, my memory's a little foggy, but I do remember I made some sick chili, big highlight of the game, and I just sort of remember the first half was very straightforward. You look at the scoring and the game recap. It was not very... The first half was very... You didn't really have to watch it. It went and ended up being a game where the score was tied. 10-10. Final. Let's go to the game cast real quick, and let's review. So, yeah, Robbie Gould hit the field goal. Patrick Mahomes led a scoring drive. Then the Chiefs hit the field goal, then that awesome pass to the fullback, make fullbacks great again. That's what my friend Johnny Stanton tweeted. Kyle Juszczyk from the Ohio area. Respect, Northeast Ohio. Caught that beautiful pass, and it was 10-10. And then the biggest drama happened when George Kittle pushed off and the 49ers were driving down the field. So they ended up not scoring. They got the ball back, ended up not scoring, did not use their timeouts, and did not trust, and this is where Kyle Shanahan made his first mistake in this game. He did not trust Jimmy Garoppolo to lead a scoring drive and win this game. And then after the half started, the 49ers kicked another field goal, then had a long drive. Raheem Mostert scored. Had a phenomenal playoff run, Raheem. Probably earned himself some more money in the future. Hopefully he can continue that. And then after the third quarter ended, explosion happened with about, 8 minutes left to go in the game, 9 minutes left to go in the game. The Chiefs took over. In the second half, it was the Patrick Mahomes show. It started with a 10-play, 83-yard drive that was saved by a long bomb, and then continued down. Sammy Watkins ate up Richard Sherman in that second half, so did Tyreek Hill. And then Damian Williams hit that home run 38-yard touchdown to ice it. So when you look at the game itself, it was a very average Super Bowl. The meaning from this game is more than what the Super Bowl was. But there were some interesting questions posed on Twitter that I saw, and I wanted to touch on them. So one question that was asked actually was, I was a big fan of this question being asked, Jimmy Garoppolo versus Kirk Cousins. Because a while ago when Kirk Cousins signed with the Vikings, he was seen as a replacement for, Colin Kaepernick at the time to find that new quarterback when Colin Kaepernick and the other guy were not very good. So Kirk Cousins was the viable option in free agency, and they ended up deciding not to go with him and trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. So Kirk Cousins ends up in Minnesota. And now Jimmy G and Kirk Cousins are magically attached. So that gets me thinking. And New Age Analytics, I don't know his name on Twitter, but he's a guy I followed. He's very analytically driven, so it gives me an interesting perspective I usually wouldn't seek out. That's why I follow him. And Kirk Cousins and Jimmy G, this was my first thought when I saw that question. I was like, well, Kirk Cousins did hit that deep post. I think Jimmy G is less turnover prone, and I think he is more made for the big moment than Kirk Cousins. But Kirk Cousins showed me that he can play in the big moments. So is Jimmy G more Kirk Cousins than he is Tom Brady? That's where I want to look. So you look at the quarterbacks in the NFL. Where does Jimmy Garoppolo rank to me? Does he rank in that first tier, the legend tier, the Mahomes, Brady, Wilson, Breeze tier? No, he doesn't. Lamar Jackson edged his way into that tier until the playoffs. Now people are disparaging him. I think when you look at it, you're going to see 5 guys up there. Is he in the second tier, the next 5? Is he in that tier with Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill? I guess Aaron Rodgers is in that tier, apparently, according to NFL.com. Dak Prescott, he's better than him. Matt Ryan, I think him and Matt Ryan are very light comparisons. Both Shanahan guys, both played their best football under Kyle Shanahan. So, he is the 9th or 10th best quarterback in the league. And what Kyle Shanahan learned is that you have to let your quarterback win the game for you. You can't protect him in play calls and in time management and clock wasting. In the Super Bowl, you need to let your quarterback win. That's what Andy Reid did. That's what Andy Reid finally decided to let happen, and it worked. Now, Jimmy G ranks in the middle. If he won the Super Bowl, he'd probably be seen as a top 5 to 10 quarterback, but that's not what he is. The next biggest takeaway was the 49ers came up 12 minutes short. How does that land next year? The Super Bowl hangover works for the winners because all the celebrating and all the parades, but playing 19 football games in a single season is a lot on the body. So will the 49ers come back motivated? Yes. George Kittle has already promised a revenge tour. Him and Quan Alexander talked about it at their lockers. What's a revenge tour mean to me? Nothing, because the last team who said they were on a revenge tour got smoked by Ohio State. So, what does that mean for the 49ers moving forward? They have a very well-established team, but they have around 20 guys going to free agency this year. So they have a lot of decisions to make. They aren't going to have one of those great draft picks that hooked them up this year. They're not going to get a Nick Bosa in this draft because they have the 31st pick. So where do the 49ers go this year? They need a big outside target. A lot of their work is getting done over the middle. Once they get that big outside target, that opens up the middle. That allows Jimmy G to be a better quarterback. And that is why they came up 12 minutes short. It's because the offense became two-dimensional, and not having that third dimension made it almost impossible. So that's why the 49ers came up 12 minutes short. And now, who was the real MVP? There's a lot of arguments that Patrick Mahomes shouldn't have won the MVP. I disagree highly. I highly disagree with that. I think he was the most important player. He orchestrated those last 3 scoring drives. Huge part. Now, Damian Williams deserves a ton of credit. Offensive player of the game. I know bowl games do that. I don't know if the NFL does that, but he deserves a ton of credit. Defensively, Tyrann Mathieu did his stuff. Kendall Fuller had a huge interception. Harrison Butker scored 7 points. There's a lot of people who made a difference. And everyone on the team had an impact. So you look at that, and that is exactly what you want to see when you win. Sammy Watkins had 98 yards. Tyreek Hill had 105 yards. Travis Kelce had a touchdown. Damian Williams had a great game receiving and running the ball. So, yes, I don't think there is another MVP. Patrick Mahomes very much deserved winning the MVP. That's my takeaway, and it's not going to be his last. Another question that was put up on Twitter. Do you think Patrick Mahomes is more likely to win 1 Super Bowl or 4+? I'm hitting the over on that. I see him winning 4+. I see 4 exactly, but I think the perfect number is that 3 to 4 range for Patrick Mahomes. I think teams he plays for are going to rely too much on his talent, and that's why it's going to fall apart, not because of his talent. Similar to what happened to Aaron Rodgers, but I just think when you look at what is built and what Andy Reid has in store moving forward, hit the over on that. The last Super Bowl takeaway, and then we're going to get on to some fun topics. Andy Reid is no longer the winningest coach without a Super Bowl. And that title was put on him for so long, and Andy Reid has won a lot of football games. And Andy Reid was a Hall of Fame coach before this. Now it just solidifies that. He finally did it. Some coaches are those young innovators, and they get it early. Andy Reid was both. He was innovative. He was exciting. But he just never was able to get over that hump. He had that guy named Tom Brady in his way. He leaves Philadelphia. He has to see his former team win. That's got to hurt a little bit. But I am happy for Andy Reid. You look at his career. You look at the ups and downs. You look at those Philadelphia Eagles teams with Donovan McNabb. You look at all of those Packers teams he was part of. He won one as an assistant. He knew the feeling. He knew what it was like. When you look at his head coaching, he got fired in Philadelphia because he just could not get them over the hump. Philadelphia went with young, innovative. Chip Kelly, changed the game in college football. Could that gimmicky offense in college football come to the NFL? And, a lot of those principles Andy Reid used with Patrick Mahomes to make him so exciting came from Chip Kelly in college. So, you get lost in the shuffle because all these new up-and-comers and people want exciting. People want new. But that wasn't what worked. And Andy Reid finally figured it out. He had Alex Smith. He had 13 and 3 years. He had 12 and 4 years, 11 and 5 years. He was always there, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. That was Andy Reid. It really was. So his tenure for the Chiefs, he was hired. He was never not a head coach for long. So, in 2013 he won 11 and 5. He went 9 and 7. He won 11 and 5, 12 and 4, 10 and 6, 12 and 4, 12 and 4. Super Bowl champs. He had some games he choked. He also had some games where he lost to better quarterbacks in the Steelers and the Patriots and Andrew Luck. That's what happens, In Philadelphia, he made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times out of 13 seasons. I don't think people can really comprehend how absurd that is. A lot of losses, a lot of heartbreaking losses to add to that. And now he's a Super Bowl champion. He is now no longer the winningest coach without a Super Bowl. It's an exclusive club. You see all these reds on his Wikipedia page, and now there's a yellow. Man, that's unbelievable. And his coaching tree. He had guys on his coaching tree. He had a guy, Doug Peterson, on his coaching tree win a Super Bowl before him. That's gotta hurt. He beat John Harbaugh, but man, it's crazy to think that it took this long for Andy Reid. But that just shows how hard it is to win in the NFL. And that just shows how fickle it is. And he had some great teams, and he had some teams that he elevated as a head coach. And people didn't give him that respect because he didn't win those games. Now he's a champion. And now you could start talking about him, if he wins a couple more, as one of the greatest coaches of all time. Offensively, there's no better mind in the sport, similar to Belichick defensively. It's how it works. And they always said offense doesn't win championships, but Andy Reid never doubted himself for a minute. And now he no longer is the winningest coach without a Super Bowl. So football's over, but not for long. It's XFL opening weekend, so who's going to be watching? This guy, longevity of the league, we'll see. AAFL, Alliance of American Football, the XFL is already way cooler. I don't know what the X stands for. What's it stand for? Extreme Football League? I think, honestly, they just use an X because it's cool as hell. Let's look at the original XFL to see if they had... so... The X means nothing. The X is a cool letter. That's why they have it. So it is founded by Alpha Entertainment, Vince McMahon. You guys may know who he is. But moving forward, how is this league going to have longevity? It's going to need to get players from colleges that are popular. Cardale Jones in Washington, already a genius move. Guys who were successful in the AAFL are getting another shot in the XFL. It's a spring football league. Own that. Own the spring. It's your time to shine, XFL. The original venture was garbage. It was not good football. It was trying to be too gimmicky like the WWE. And, college football is not always the greatest product, but it drives you there because of the attachment you have to the team. The XFL is not going to have that for them. So, the XFL has a chance to be popular. The new sports betting laws are going to help it lead forward. and it is one of the aspects that everyone calls into question. Monetarily, they've got the money, so it's not going to be like the AAFL where investors are pulling out midway through the season and it's going to fold. The XFL is going to get through a full season. I can predict that right now. But when you look at the names in the league, who's going to be the notable players? Let's see. On the teams, you've got 8 teams and Team 9, the practice team that people are going to be able to play on. All right, so let's go through the teams. You got the Dallas Renegades, Arlington, Texas, Coach Bob Stoops, Houston Roughnecks, June Jones, run and shoot, famous college football coach, the Los Angeles Wildcats, Dignity Health Sports Park, Winston Moss, don't know the guy, seems interesting, the Seattle Dragons, Jim Zorn's the coach, heard of him, the DC Defenders, Pep Hamilton, one of the offensive innovators of the sport, left Michigan to be the head coach of the DC Defenders, shout out to Pep Hamilton for that, the New York Guardians, Kevin Gilbride, St. Louis Battlehawks, Jonathan Hayes, and the Tampa Bay Vipers, Mark Trussman. So Team 9 is the practice squad, so that's interesting as well. They just play football, and that's what they do. I guess that was part of NFL Europe. It holds a maximum of 40 players at a time and is meant to prepare players for call-up to one of the XFL's 8 teams to fill roster vacancies due to injuries of players or its teams see a player as a hidden gem. So that's Team 9. All right, so what are they changing for this? The league has active interest in reviving kickoffs as an element of the game. This is a contrast to the AAF, which eliminated kickoffs outright, and the NFL and college football, both of which impose rules minimizing the impact of the kickoff in the mid-2010s to improve player safety. So the spot of the kickoff will be set at the kicking team's 25-yard line. In the NFL and college, it is 35. Members of the kicking team, excluding the kicker, will line up at the receiving team's 35-yard line, and blockers on the receiving teams will line up at their 30-yard line. So there's going to be a lot of space created. Only the kicker and returners can move until the ball is either caught or 3 seconds after it hits the ground. Kickoffs that go out of bounds or fall short of the receiving team's 20-yard line will come to the kicking team's 45-yard line. This should increase the scoring pace of the game. The XFL will use 2 different types of touchback. A major touchback occurs when a kick travels into the end zone in the air, which will result in the receiving team taking possession at the 35. A minor touchback occurs when the ball bounces into the end zone, which would result in the receiving team taking possession at the 15. These rules discourage either team from purposely taking a touchback. Teams can request to attempt an onside kick under more conventional kickoff rules. Punts. XFL will not allow gunners. All players on a punting team must remain on or behind the line of scrimmage until the ball is kicked. This is carryover from the original XFL, although that league had scrapped the rule midway through its only season. The coffin corner punt will be treated as touchbacks and brought to the 35-yard line. This attempts to neutralize punt coverage are made with the intention of encouraging more fourth down conversions. The same touchback rules for kickoffs also apply to punts. PATs, the extra point, will be replaced with a scrimmage play, varying in point value depending on how far the touchdown scoring team chooses to take a snap from the goal line. A 2-yard attempt would score a single point, a 5-yard attempt 2 points, and a 10-yard attempt 3 points. The rules also carry over from the original XFL, which added the rule only for the playoffs. The Stars Football League also used the rule during its existence. In the event the defense secures a turnover and returns the ball for a touchdown, the defensive team scores the same number of points. The double forward pass rule. Now this one's interesting. Teams will be able to attempt 2 forward passes on the same play, so long as the ball never crosses the line of scrimmage before the second pass. So when your team throws that double pass and the ball goes forward first, that's not going to happen anymore. They just get rid of that, so it's more fun. Overtime will decide. Okay, so overtime will be decided by a 5-round shootout of 2-point conversions to a penalty shootout in soccer or ice hockey. Such a shootout had never been attempted in organized football at the time the rule was proposed. In April 2019, the NCAA adopted a similar concept for games that reach a 5th overtime starting the 2019 FBS season. The defense is not able to score, as should a turnover occur, the play would be dead. Defensive penalties will result in the ball moving up to the 1-yard line, while a second defensive penalty on any play, even in future rounds, will result in a score awarded to the offensive team. to speed up the overtime process. Both teams' offenses and defenses will be on the field at the appropriate end zone, each team. So it's crazy. These rules are changing. I think the XFL has a legitimate chance to be a successful league because of these rule changes, differentiating itself from traditional football, but also trying to make the game more fun. And once people get over these rule barriers, I think it's going to be fun to watch. So let's get into my breaking news. Mark D'Antonio has stepped down as the head coach of MSU. This is super late in the game, and any coach who is taking over will need to establish relationships with the current recruiting class because of the waivers the recruits will receive. This is an absolute D-bag move by Mark D'Antonio, but that's what Mark D'Antonio was known for. He was due $4.5 million if he was the head coach of this football team on January 15th. Well, guess what? It's 3 weeks later, and he steps down, so he wanted his check. Going to look at Mark D'Antonio, he was the coach at Michigan State for 13 seasons. Before that, he was a well-known coach, and he was a well-known defense coordinator at Ohio State during the Jim Tressel era. He originally coached at Cincinnati, and as a head coach has a career overall 133-74. He won 3 Big Ten championships and 3 Big Ten division titles. He was the 2-time Big Ten Coach of the Year. And although this move was a D-bag move, he did get the most out of a little. This weekend, there's a huge UFC fight. John Jones versus Dominic Reyes. One of the hottest up-and-comers takes on one of the baddest dudes on the planet. My opinion, John Jones wins this one early. I don't think he messes around in this fight, and I don't think he takes his first defense of the belt for granted. Shakira and J-Lo are causing a storm because of the way they danced provocatively on stage. If you're a Christian, turn off the television. If you're mad about your kid, I'm sorry. That's your fault as a parent. You should have known what was coming when you saw their names. What they did wasn't bad. They expressed themselves. They're confident women, and they did what they wanted to do and performed all-time hit classics. The people who were mad about them being Mexican and singing in Spanish. The Super Bowl was in Miami. Get off your high horse. I don't care if this is America. There's Spanish speakers here. Plus, those songs slap. So get out of here. Next, around the association, John Moran and Dylan Brooks have some beef. News broke that Andre Iguodala plans on sitting out and demands a trade or buyout from the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies are not obliging to these demands because Andre Iguodala has done nothing in his career to earn this type of star treatment. Ja Morant is not scared of Steph Curry, and the beef went from Dylan Brooks saying, "I hope he gets traded so we can show him what Memphis is all about," to which Iguodala replied, through a Steph Curry Instagram story with Andre Iguodala holding a trophy and the shush emoji. To which John Morant replied, "I ain't scared of him." No, that's not what happened. He replied with Kevin Durant holding the MVP trophy and said, "I ain't scared of him." So, yeah. This takes me to the biggest name most likely to be traded. That's D'Angelo Russell. He is not going to be in Golden State by the end of this trade deadline. They are going to accumulate some draft capital and move this expensive player for more pieces when Steph and Clay get back healthy. So my final thoughts this week before the Friday show. Final thoughts here. Things you can do now that football is over. I've got a list of 10 things you can do as a fan now that football is over. The first thing you can do now that football is over, wash that jersey. Yes, I know it's your good luck charm, but your team did not win the Super Bowl. And if you're a Chiefs fan, I understand not wanting to wash it, but every year needs its own luck. And every year needs a new beginning, and it starts with you washing that jersey, and then we can get to the rest of the list. So go put your jersey in the wash right now. I don't think I'd ever be the voice of reason on this, but I am. So go put that jersey in the wash. Throw superstition out the window. We're going to start new next year, all right? Number 2, spend that time with your significant other. Now you have Saturdays and Sundays free, and Thursday nights and Monday nights. So 4 out of your 7 days of the week aren't taken anymore. That means you have time for dates. You have time for the farmer's market. You have time to go to that trendy food truck she wants to go to. Take her to one of those flower shops or whatever girls like to go to. maybe go take her to a Ferris wheel, carnival, one of those things football got in the way of that you may not want to do but would make her happy. That's number 2 on the list. Number 3 on the list, this is part of the grieving process. Tell yourself your team was a coach or a piece away. I've been doing that all fall. Once we got rid of Freddie Kitchens, it made me feel good. And now we got Kevin Stefanski. The Browns are a Super Bowl contender for real. Number 4, start reading the mock drafts. You need to know which guy is going to make your team that Super Bowl contender. Who's your Patrick Mahomes? Who's your Frank Clark? Who's your Tyrann Mathieu? You're going to find your honey badger? You can. This is a draft of the receiver. I'm telling you that right now. Number 5 on this list, start convincing yourself this is the year. All right, when your wife asks you what you're reading, you tell her stuff about your team. And you tell her, it's our year. This is it. I'm going to the Super Bowl, me and my friends. You start planning it now so she can't get mad at you when you want to go. All right, now, the next, number 6, watch the XFL. Let's get another football league going. And eventually it'll become part of your Saturdays and Sundays so you can get out of number 2 a little bit longer. Number 7, pass the time with other sports. Basketball's fun. Baseball's all right. I'm going to enjoy them. I'm excited for the Indians this year. I'm excited for my team. It's not football. It doesn't drive me to the TV every day, but I'll watch it. It's fun. I'll go to the games. I'll pay for those $15 club tickets. It's an extremely fun experience. All right. And then number 8, you start a true crime podcast. Find a different hobby. It doesn't have to be true crime, but it could be a YouTube channel about your favorite hobby. Start woodworking again. Start, unpacking. Write that book you've always passed on. I said start a true crime podcast because that would be fun to do too. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about sports because that's what I like to do. You can do that too, but don't come up on my turf, all right? Number 9, catch up on television you missed. There is a ton of shows that I don't even know that I probably need to watch. Number 10, get outside and explore the world. There is a big world out there. There are tons of microbreweries, coffee shops, handy stores, Hobby Lobby. There's a lot of hobbies out there you don't know about. Travel, go to that park, play some basketball, get active, get in the gym. 7 days a week, it's football time. It's time to enjoy your life for what it is and not your team's life. All right? That's my last advice. That's number 10. Final thoughts. On Friday, my episode is going to be my favorite episode of the year. I am going to tell you the 8 teams in college football that can win a national title. And I am going to preview the first weekend of the XFL. And become, I'm the exclusive podcast of the XFL. I'm going to say that right now. Let's do it. I'm the XFL voice. That's it. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chris Rennie CFB. And don't forget to follow the show at The Chris Rennie. Or at Chris Rennie Show, actually. That's what it is. And then like us on Facebook at Mom's Basement Production. And follow us on Twitter at MBasementProd. Continue listening, subscribe, and rate. I've got job applications out. You might be hearing me on a local radio media market before you know it. So review my podcast, say nice things, and follow me on those accounts so they can know I can cultivate an audience. Please, dear God, tell your friends about me so I can get a job. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. This is Chris Rennie, your host, signing out. Deuces.